Thank you for joining me. Today's September 15th, 2020. It's a Tuesday. Normally I'd be introducing the topics of the day, but I'm only going to stick with two major topics. The main one that we're going to discuss is why I'm not voting for Donald Trump in 2020 and what initially caused me to think that way. We're going to ignore everything that's happened subsequently, like the Ukraine issue, like the almost 200,000 people dead of the coronavirus, and just focus on my views as so far as how he's treated indigenous people from 1993 on. We're not going to discuss the signing of the MMIW task force bill. Yes, that is a positive check mark in his box, but Ted Bundy also worked on a suicide hotline and dived in and saved a child from drowning. So everybody has something that we can add in the positive section. If you like the kind of content that I do, please hit the subscribe button. It'll allow us to expand. As you can see, I have a lovely studio. I'd love to upgrade a little bit, put some things on my wall maybe. So with your support, we can do that. Without further ado, let's get started. So the video that we're going to watch comes from October 3rd, 1993. It's a hearing on Capitol Hill about Trump's views on the Pequots gaining the right to have a casino in Connecticut, okay, which ended up becoming the Foxwoods Casino. So let's listen to his views on Indians.
Is this you discussing Indian blood? We're going to judge people by whether they have Indian blood, whether they're qualified to run a gaming casino or not?
That probably is me, absolutely. Because I'll tell you what, if you look at some of the reservations that you've approved, you, sir, in your great wisdom have approved, I will tell you right now, they don't look like Indians to me. And they don't look like the Indians. Now, maybe we say politically correct or not politically correct. They don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like Indians to Indians.
So, of the over 570 federally recognized tribes, let's not even talk about the state recognized tribes, but of the over 570, I think it's 574 federally recognized tribes in the United States alone, what do you think the common look for an Indian actually is? Because I'm going to tell you right now, different tribes look different ways, just like in other races, okay? Not all white people look the same, not all black people look the same, not all Asians look the same. It's just a fact of the matter. With how large this continent is, you're not going to get the exact common features of every single individual who's supposed to be indigenous, okay? This is racism.
And a lot of people are laughing at it.
Or
and
classism.
How tough it is, how rough it is to get approved. Well, you go up to Connecticut and you look. Now, they don't look like Indians to me, sir.
Thank God that's not the test of whether or not people have rights in this country or not, whether or not they pass your look test.
Depends whether or not you're approving it, sir.
No, it's not a question whether I'm approving it. It's not a question whether I'm approving it. Mr. Trump, you know in the history of this country where we've heard this discussion before, they don't look Jewish to me.
Oh, really?
They don't look Indian to me. They don't look Italian to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the test for whether people could go into business or not go into business, whether they could get a bank loan. You're too black. You're not black enough.
I want to find out. Well, then why you're approving for Indian? Why don't you approve it for everybody then? If your case is non-discriminatory, why don't you approve for everybody? You're saying only Indians. Wait a minute, sir. You're saying only Indians can have the reservations. Only Indians can have the gaming.
So the reservations weren't something that indigenous people asked for, okay? Indigenous people wanted to live on this land, free range, just like had been done for millennia previous, okay? So the idea that indigenous people are fighting for reservations is laughable. If you want to go through the Trail of Tears, then maybe you can have a reservation too, Donald Trump. That's pretty much where it stands in my opinion.
So why aren't you approving it for everybody? Why are you being discriminatory? Why is it that the Indians don't pay tax, but everybody else does? I do.
Why don't you look that up? Okay. To be frank, indigenous people do pay taxes. Okay. Uh, there are some non-taxable things that come from indigenous reservations, but if you were to look at 90% of the indigenous people on this continent, we pay taxes. That's just the fact of the matter. That's what I want to state about the issue with the Pequots. Let's move on. So in this section, we're going to talk about how Trump decided he wanted to smear the St. Regis Mohawk. The article is Trump is fined in attack on Indian casino, written by Joe Mahoney for the New York Daily News, November 14th, 2000, which means that it wasn't written during the heyday of fake news BS that we're currently going through now, but is actually a contemporary article of the time. Mogul Donald Trump and allies who helped him fight an Indian-run casino proposed for the Catskills will pay a record $250,000 fine to the state lobbying commission under a settlement signed. Well, it was yesterday, so I guess that was November 13th. They also agreed to spend $50,000 on ads to disclose they were behind a public relations blitz attacking the gaming plan. The settlement requires Trump to pay $50,000 in penalties, while his casino strategist Roger Stone, yes, the same Roger Stone, and the New York Institute for Law and Society have to come up with $100,000 each. They're the highest ever penalty assessed by the lobbying commission. They grew out of allegations that Trump and his associates violated the state's lobbying law by failing to disclose they were mounting the effort to torpedo an Indian casino plan for the Catskills. They kept calling them criminals and saying that they were mobbed up and anonymously started posting ads and billboards and stuff. Okay. While agreeing to pay for the fines, Trump and company made no concessions that they had violated the lobbying law, said Judge Burstein, a lawyer for Stone, because even back in 2000 he couldn't admit when he was wrong. That's exactly the point. Trump, apparently concerned competition would hurt his Atlantic City casinos, gave $150,000 to the New York Institute for Law and Society to finance an ad campaign that took swipes at Governor Pataki for backing the Indian plan. The ads contended the St. Regis Mohawk Indian tribe was involved in organized crime, a claim that infuriated the tribe, obviously. He has a history of doing this kind of stuff, doesn't he? Trump and the Institute have also financed a lawsuit brought by two state legislators who challenged Pataki's authority to issue Indian gambling compacts. It's another instance of him using whatever means he has in order to attack what he thinks is a direct competition to his Trump brand. On December 4th, 2017, Trump stood in front of a crowd and announced that he was going to reduce the size of Bears Ears National Monument. I decided to take a video from the New York Times that kind of gives an overview of this. Let's watch.
I've come to Utah to take a very historic action to reverse federal overreach and restore the rights of this land to your citizens.
And we've seen the same thing with him as he came into office, like right as he came into office, deciding to sign back into law the Dakota Access Pipeline that the Obama administration had put a stop to. Okay, fortunately, the courts have ruled that he just has to stop with that. And then he announces this year in 2000 that we were going to start drilling in Anwar, which puts Inuit and Inuit communities at risk. It's all about the resources instead of finding natural sources of energy. We don't even need to find natural sources of energy. We already have them. Okay, we just need to be able to implement them at a larger scale. But instead of focusing on these things, we go back to non-renewable resources that pillage our land and create disasters for our future, like pipelines. Donald Trump's campaign promises was to build a southern wall in order to keep out what he described as a mass of criminals. Um, he stated that Mexico was going to pay for it, et cetera, et cetera. We already know the diatribe. What I'm not going to talk about is the unfettered idea of immigrants coming in without, restriction, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What I'm going to talk about is the cultural impact and the environmental impact that his personal monument, not talking about what he wants to do to the Black Hills, but his great wall of Trump, I suppose, has on the community.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for CBS 5 at 6 o'clock. We begin in southern Arizona, where President Donald Trump's border wall is being built and posing a problem for a Native American tribe.
Today they started protesting. Our very own David Caltabiano is on the southern border tonight and tells us why.
The protest stemmed from the base of Monument Hill. The Tohono O'odham tribe says sacred burial sites were blown up for border wall construction. You can see the controlled blasts in this video. Now members of the Tohono O'odham tribe are outraged. They're protesting in Ajo, near the Border Patrol station on Highway 85. Tonight, the tribe tells me they feel their land has been desecrated after they say federal authorities blew up sacred burial sites for the border wall.
I feel really disrespected, and I feel like my elders have been disrespected too, because their family members are buried there. Family of my family and everybody that's buried there, they deserve to be there because they grew up on that land. They're going back home. That's their home. That's where they deserve to be.
At the end of the day, the tribe says they don't want their land ruined by the wall. In Ajo, David Caltabiano for Arizona's Family.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection released this statement you're seeing on your screen. It says they did a survey and found nothing in the area where the tribe says their sacred sites were blown up. It reads in part, quote, CBP's environmental monitor is present during these activities to ensure that if any previously unidentified culturally sensitive artifacts are observed within the project, that the construction is halted.
Yeah.
Kevin, where's Tom?
We don't need to hear about Kevin. So in any case, we're going to believe the Customs and Border Patrol on this particular statement when, the government's had a really good track history of honoring its treaty. Wait. No, they haven't. Let's move on. So we're going to discuss, we're going to watch a video by Chase Iron Eyes, who's discussing the current issues that are going on with the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, okay? This is not something that happened decades ago. This is something that actually is a title from this particular year. Let's watch.
We want to send a word out to the Mashpee Wampanoag. They tried to put land into trust in 2015, and they succeeded under President Obama. Again, here we go with that same theme, where President Trump is overturning and doing a complete 180 on something positive that President Obama did. And this time it was taking land into trust. And what's not clear is the extent to which the Mashpee Wampanoag would lose civil, regulatory, criminal authority over those lands, over the previous jurisdiction, which is Indian country or Indian lands. It also includes the authority of the Mashpee Wampanoag to conduct commercial activities on the land, to tax the land, to zone the land, to develop, to exist and pursue a destiny. And one item that needs to be brought out is that the Mashpee Wampanoag's attorneys have said that what the court has done here is issue a death knell for all the tribes who were not recognized prior to 1934. And we can't allow the Trump administration to get away with it. We need to choose how to make a stand, and we've got to always have each other's backs as indigenous nations, because this is colonization 2020. You know, the Indian wars have never ended. We need to start taking command of our lives and protecting our communities. Just being born indigenous is a political act. It's an act of resistance. It's an act of spiritual liberation to recognize your own divinity, your own indigeneity, and that's what we have. That's what we share. That divine knowledge. So thank you for listening.
And now we've come to Manifest Destiny. As previously shown, Donald Trump tweeted about it and acted as though it is a positive thing. For Indigenous people, the idea of Manifest Destiny, in fact, is highly insensitive and highly incendiary. I decided to go towards the History Channel for a very brief introduction to what Manifest Destiny actually means.
Hi, my name is Matthew Pinsker, and I'm a historian. Here are a few things you need to know to sound smart about Manifest Destiny. People think of it as the official policy of territorial expansion, the idea that
colonialism
God had blessed America to become an ocean-bound republic in the 19th century. But the truth is, presidents and secretaries of state, they didn't use the phrase Manifest Destiny. It was the slogan of a journalist named John L. O'Sullivan, who invented it in 1845 when he was writing editorials about the annexation of Texas and about the boundary dispute with Britain over the Oregon Territory. He said it was blessed by Providence. It was the manifest destiny of the country to become this continental power. It immediately became controversial at the time. The phrase itself was used more by critics than supporters as a way to ridicule expansionism. Whigs and others opposed it. A lot of Northerners thought it was code for spreading slavery. In fact, a lot of manifest destiny advocates, people who believed in territorial expansion, they felt like they had failed. They didn't think the country was spreading widely enough. They wanted all of Mexico. They wanted Canada. They wanted the entire continent to be part of the American Republic. The phrase actually kind of disappeared from American political life until the 1890s, when it was reborn as part of the drive to make the United States a global power. Some people began to talk about expanding into the Caribbean or the Pacific. This is the era of the Spanish-American War. And that's when Manifest Destiny became ever more popular. But the irony is, by that point, John L. O'Sullivan, he had died in 1895, and when he died, his obituaries didn't even mention the fact that he was the author of the phrase. He had sort of struggled and fallen into obscurity by that point. It took decades for historians to recover his role. And it's taken a lot of time for people to realize that the policy of Manifest Destiny was really a contested one that was controversial in its beginning and remains controversial today.
So as we see, Manifest Destiny is not something that we should be bragging about. It's something that's actually insulting towards the indigenous people on this continent, because the idea that you have a God-given right to take land that our people's bones, our people's souls, our people have been living on for millennia is, just imagine how that would feel if it happened to your cultures. So now that we've covered everything as to why I'm not voting for Donald Trump, I wanted to end on a positive note. There's an online film festival going on by Vision Maker Media, and you can actually go and see movies and short films done by Indigenous people. We can look through week 3 is activism, lasting from September 15th to September 21st. All of these videos are done by Indigenous people and with Indigenous actors. You can watch all of them here. It's so exciting to have a film festival that I'm sure most of us haven't even heard of a lot of these artists, and I'm hoping that this is something that's going to be prevalent in the future. Thank you to everybody that's participated in it. Thank you to Vision Maker Media for making it possible. Their website is visionmakermedia.org. I'll leave a link in the down below. Please remember to check them out. And if you like what I'm doing, again, I would love it if you would give me a subscribe. You can hit the bell icon to see future content that I put out. I'm trying to do something interesting and new every time we discuss things, so stay tuned. And if you like what I'm doing, share it. That'll help me out a lot. I really appreciate it. Wanishi.